Hello, my name is Dr. Peter Martin, and I am a licensed psychologist and the internship director of integrated training and formation at the Immaculate Heart of Mary Counseling Center of Catholic Social Services in the Diocese of Lincoln, Nebraska. And this is a special Father's Day Mental Health Minute. It's my honor to be with all of the fathers who have sacrificed much for their family and friends. Regardless of where you personally stand on the country's response to COVID-19, or the significant increase in violent protests, it's highly likely that you as a father have experienced some elevated distress during this time. Social distancing requirements, decreased income or even loss of employment, fears that you or a family member may contract coronavirus, how to best protect others and yourself, etc. All of this has produced for most fathers a lot of uncertainty about best paths to take, how to best provide for your own family's needs, and a host of challenges never previously encountered. It's also possible that this moment has increased your stress, amped up your anger levels, and your unhealthy coping patterns. A number of weeks ago, I was in the drive-through lane at a local fast food establishment in pursuit of an affordable yet mostly satisfying cup of coffee, when the individual in front of me started honking at the car in front of him to drive forward, even though there were 4 cars ahead of her, barely inching ahead. There was a heated exchange between the two of them, and the man in the car in front of me started yelling at her at the top of his lungs, eventually ending this rather harsh exchange by extending his very visible middle finger for her and the rest of us in close proximity to see. I wasn't able to see or even hear her response, but I watched his car eventually make its way to the receiving window, where he was given what appeared to be, ironically, 2 Happy Meals. I hope there were no children in the car with him, but I'm afraid they weren't there. His example was definitely not what I would call exemplary. In fact, he probably could have used another Happy Meal or 2 himself. But to say the least, I'm sure he was having a less than ideal day prior to this unhealthy public exchange. This interaction and others provided mounting evidence for me that a change had been percolating. Something was different, and in a negative way. The general level of anxiety had increased noticeably. People were overtly more on edge. Regardless of the many possible reasons or variables contributing to this man's extreme reactions, there was an injustice, or perhaps many of them, that needed resolving. He may have felt strong in his angry reactions, but in reality, the opposite was conveyed. All that I and others, and even possibly his kids, could see was his fallen human weakness. I communicate this anecdotal experience neither to be condescending toward him nor to convey an air of self-righteousness, as if I or others are better than him. Indeed, what father among us can honestly say, he has never displayed his fallenness and weakness and anger to his children and others. None of us are entirely innocent in this regard. As the Catechism of the Catholic Church puts it, the heights of true fatherly strength is fundamentally different. God is the Father Almighty. God reveals his fatherly omnipotence by the way he takes care of our needs, by the filial adoption that he gives us, finally by his infinite mercy, for he displays his power at its height by freely forgiving sins. One could say that in forgiving sins and reconciling with his children, the Father's loving omnipotence at its strongest is on full display. Thank the Lord that forgiveness not only prepares fathers for a better afterlife, indeed, empirical research shows that it helps everyone, generally, in the here and now. In stark contrast to the lack of forgiveness toward an offender, which has been shown to increase anger and physiological tension and to lead to elevations in negative physical symptoms like loneliness and stress, empirical research has shown that forgiveness can increase hope and self-confidence, significantly reduce anger, depression, anxiety, and even in some cases result in less restriction of myocardial blood flow when thinking about an earlier experience of being a victim of injustice. That's a mouthful, but even remarkably, a number of these positive outcomes maintained 1/3 of a year later. If you would like to know how to forgive thoroughly and understand why it's such a healthy option, I highly recommend Robert Enright's book, Forgiveness is a Choice, which I've used with dozens of clients. I promise I'm not getting kickbacks. I just like the book. So from one father to another, I'd suggest continuing to develop one of your most important strengths by making efforts to repair relationship ruptures you may have with your children and others, which is a primary focus of authentic fatherly love. Show your strength neither in hatred, nor contempt, nor angry outbursts, but in the very ever powerful fatherly emphasis on forgiveness and reconciliation. Give your children yet another reason to be proud to call you Father.